Earth had always been a peaceful planet, a shining example of humanity's progress in the galaxy. The humans had worked hard to form alliances, trade with different species, and explore the vast reaches of space. But in one sudden, tragic moment, everything changed. On the small colony of Ronsar, located on the outer edges of the galaxy, a human family was going about their daily life. They lived in a small, humble home surrounded by beautiful alien landscapes. The father, Alex, was a quiet, hard-working engineer. His wife, Nora, a skilled doctor, spent her days helping the people on the colony. They had a young son, Max, who was only 7 years old. Max loved exploring, making friends with the alien children, and always asking questions about space and the stars. One morning, while Alex was working on a project in the colony's workshop, the peaceful silence was suddenly broken by the loud roar of an unknown ship's engines. Nora had just finished breakfast when she heard the commotion outside. She rushed to the window and froze. A large, dark ship was descending rapidly from the sky, its sharp, alien design unmistakable. It didn't belong to any of the nearby peaceful factions. Before anyone could react, the ship opened fire on the colony. Explosions rang out, tearing through the buildings. People screamed and scattered, trying to flee the chaos. Alex rushed outside, heart pounding, to find his wife and son. He saw Nora standing in the doorway, holding Max's hand, but before he could reach them, an explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The shockwave sent Alex tumbling backward, his vision blurred. By the time Alex regained his senses, the air was thick with smoke. He scrambled to his feet and ran toward the wreckage. His heart was pounding, his mind racing. Where was Max? Where was Nora? His legs carried him through the twisted remains of the colony, past the burning ruins. He heard the cries of his fellow colonists, but nothing mattered except finding his family. Finally, he saw Nora, kneeling beside Max, who was lying motionless on the ground. Tears blurred her eyes, and Alex's heart shattered as he rushed to them. Max was gone. His small body had been crushed under the debris. The bright, curious child who had been the light of their lives was no more. The world around Alex seemed to stop. Nora held Max's lifeless body, sobbing uncontrollably. Alex could hardly breathe, his grief overwhelming. But amidst the pain, something inside him changed. This was not just an attack on one family. This was an attack on all of humanity. Max's death was not in vain. It would not be forgotten. The news spread quickly, reaching every corner of Earth. A human child had been killed in a brutal attack by a rogue alien faction, and no one could ignore it. The outrage that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. United Earth Command, the central authority of humanity, had never been so united. Plans were already being made. The fleet, once dormant, was being prepared. Earth's almighty fleet would no longer sit idle. The time for revenge had come. The galaxy would soon understand that humanity was not to be trifled with. The death of Max shook Earth to its core. What had started as a tragedy quickly turned into a call for action. News of the attack spread across every city, every continent, and every colony. People across Earth, from the bustling cities to the quiet countryside, were in shock and grief. But that grief soon turned into a powerful rage. The galaxy had never seen Earth's wrath. Alex and Nora sat in silence for hours after the attack, the memory of their son's face haunting them. But deep down, they both knew this wasn't over. The alien faction that had killed Max would pay for their actions. Earth would ensure it. The United Earth Command, UEC, which had mostly focused on diplomacy and peaceful alliances, now faced its most challenging task: preparing for war. Earth's fleet was one of the largest and most powerful in the galaxy, but it hadn't seen action in decades. For years, it had been kept in reserve, a symbol of humanity's strength, but not used. Now, it was time to unleash it. The UEC immediately began activating the fleet's ships. The enormous warships, designed for space combat, were scattered across different parts of the solar system, some hidden in orbit around Earth, others in deep space. These ships were built for speed, power, and resilience. They carried advanced weapons and technology capable of taking on even the most advanced alien forces. The fleet's commanders were quickly assembled in the Central Command Room, a high-tech facility deep underground in one of Earth's most secure locations. Among them were military leaders, strategists, and the best pilots the planet had to offer. Alex, still in shock from losing his son, found himself called to join them as a tactical advisor. He had once been a top strategist for Earth's military, but he had left it behind years ago to focus on his family. Now he was back, not out of choice, but because the galaxy had forced him. In the command room, tension hung in the air. The officers knew what they were up against. This wasn't just a small group of rogue aliens. The faction that attacked Earth was powerful, ruthless, and well-armed. They had taken down entire colonies before, and they thought they could do the same to humanity. But Earth wasn't like the other worlds they had attacked. The people of Earth would fight for their home, for their families, and for the memory of the child they had lost. The fleet's commanders gathered around a holographic map of the galaxy, plotting their first move. The alien faction's location was identified in a distant part of the galaxy, far from Earth's usual routes. But Earth's fleet was fast, and with its newly updated weapons, it would be able to strike quickly. The fleet would need to engage in deep space travel, facing potential ambushes and traps. But Earth was prepared. Alex stood at the front, looking at the map, his heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. The fleet wasn't just launching a military campaign. It was launching a message to the galaxy. Earth was no longer the peaceful world it once was. It was a force to be reckoned with. "We'll make them pay," Alex said, his voice cold and determined. The room fell silent, the officers understanding the depth of his words. Earth's almighty fleet was now fully operational, and nothing would stop it from carrying out its mission. The Earth's fleet was now fully prepared, its ships ready to take on the alien faction that had so callously taken a child's life. As the fleet gathered strength and set its course toward the enemy's stronghold, the leaders of the alien faction began to realize that Earth's response was unlike anything they had expected. The faction responsible for the attack was a ruthless one, an empire known as the Orcs. They had a long history of conflict with other species, but none had ever reacted with such intensity as the humans were now doing. For years, they had believed that humanity was still a young, untested species, no match for the might of their military power, but they had underestimated Earth's resolve. The Orcs were not only surprised by the strength of Earth's fleet, but also by the speed with which it had mobilized. In their arrogance, they had thought that by killing a human child on a remote colony, they could spark fear, not action. Their leaders, safe in their distant command center, laughed at the news of Earth preparing for war. They didn't understand what they were up against. As the Orcs' fleet gathered to defend their homeworld, their leaders debated how to handle the growing threat. Some wanted to launch a preemptive strike against Earth's fleet, hoping to destroy it before it could reach their planet. Others, more cautious, suggested waiting to see if the humans would back down. They were confident that Earth, despite its show of force, would hesitate once they saw the true might of the Orcs. But the humans had no intention of backing down. Earth's leaders knew this was a fight to the death, a battle for the future of their species. They had already lost too much, and they wouldn't allow any more suffering. In the quiet command room of the Orcs, the supreme leader, Vesker, paced angrily. He had miscalculated. He had assumed that humans, while technologically advanced, were too emotionally driven to be a real threat. But now he saw that Earth's anger, while born from grief, had created something far more dangerous, a humanity united in vengeance and determination. "We've made a grave mistake," Vesker muttered to his generals, his voice cold with realization. "The humans won't stop until we're destroyed. They won't let this go." His words sent a shiver through his council. For the first time in years, the Orcs were afraid. They had believed their empire could handle any species, but Earth was different. As the derricks prepared for battle, their fleet began to move. Ships of all shapes and sizes emerged from hidden bases, ready to defend their homeworld. The derricks had always prided themselves on their overwhelming numbers and technological superiority, but they had never faced an enemy like this before. The humans' fleet was smaller, but it was driven by something far more powerful than mere weapons. It was driven by a need for justice, by a desire for retribution. As Earth's fleet moved closer to the derrick stronghold, Alex, still mourning the loss of his son, stood with the fleet commanders. "We're not just fighting for our lives," he said quietly. "We're fighting for every innocent soul they've ever destroyed." The time for diplomacy was over. Earth's fleet would not stop until the derricks had paid for their actions. As Earth's fleet approached the derrick stronghold, the tension among the commanders grew. The ships were prepared, their weapons fully charged, but the reality of war had begun to sink in. The idea of facing an entire alien empire was daunting, and not everyone felt ready for what lay ahead. Alex stood at the front of the command center, his hands resting on the map table. He had seen war before, but never like this. He had trained for it, prepared for it, but this was personal. The loss of his son weighed heavily on him. It wasn't just about military strategy anymore. It was about justice. He had to fight, not just for the future of Earth, but for Max, his little boy. His thoughts were interrupted by Commander Sarah Lawson, one of Earth's most respected military leaders. She stood beside him, studying the readouts on the screen. "Alex, we've got some dissension in the ranks," she said, her voice low but serious. "Some of the crew aren't comfortable with the orders. They want to know if we've really thought this through." Alex turned to face her. "What do you mean?" he asked, a hint of frustration in his voice. "We've come this far, Sarah. We can't turn back now." Sarah hesitated. "It's not about turning back. It's about the toll this will take. There are families on these ships, people with loved ones. Some of them are questioning whether this is the right move." Alex knew she was right. Not every soldier on Earth's fleet had signed up for vengeance. Many had joined out of duty, out of a sense of responsibility, but there were still some who feared the war would consume them all. They were all aware of the cost of battle, of the lives that would be lost on both sides. He took a deep breath and looked around the room. The faces of the commanders were filled with concern, their eyes flicking between the tactical maps and each other. They had prepared for this, but the weight of their decision was becoming clearer by the minute. "We're fighting for survival," Alex said firmly, trying to steady his own emotions. "We can't allow them to think they can get away with this. They killed our children. They attacked our homes. This isn't just about military strategy. This is about making sure no one else suffers like we have." Sarah nodded, though she still looked uneasy. "I agree, but we need to make sure we're ready for the consequences. We can't afford to be reckless." Alex's gaze hardened. "We won't be reckless, Sarah, but we won't hesitate either. The galaxy needs to know that Earth is no longer a peaceful planet to be taken advantage of." The meeting continued as the fleet prepared to enter the final phase of their operation. As the commanders finalized their strategies and made last-minute adjustments, Alex found himself looking out the window of the command center. Outside, the dark expanse of space stretched out before him, the stars distant and cold. But Earth's fleet wasn't just another speck in the vastness of space. They were a force, and they were coming for the derricks. No more hesitation. No more fear. Earth's revenge was only a heartbeat away. The final stretch of the journey to the derrick stronghold felt like an eternity. Earth's fleet had been traveling through deep space for days, and the tension was palpable. Every crew member aboard the ships knew that they were about to face the greatest battle of their lives. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about justice. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity wouldn't be trampled on anymore. Alex stood in the command room, his eyes fixed on the holographic map that displayed the enemy's stronghold. The fleet was almost there. The ships had been in constant motion, prepared for any counterattack. Earth's military might was at full strength now. The fighters, warships, and support vessels were ready for whatever the derricks could throw at them. "We're almost there," Sarah said, breaking the silence. Her voice was steady, but Alex could tell she was as anxious as the rest of them. "The derricks won't be caught off guard. They know we're coming." "Let them try," Alex muttered under his breath, staring at the enemy base on the screen. "We'll show them what happens when you push humanity too far." Suddenly, the room was filled with a loud alarm. The derricks had noticed them. The enemy fleet, much larger than Earth's, had started to emerge from behind the moon of a nearby planet. The derrick ships were massive, their designs jagged and menacing, a stark contrast to the sleek, modern appearance of Earth's vessels. The battle began almost immediately. The first shots rang out, tearing through the vast emptiness of space. Earth's fleet responded with a barrage of lasers, missiles, and energy weapons, but the derricks were relentless. Their ships returned fire with deadly precision, sending shockwaves through the Earth fleet. The battle raged on, the two sides locked in a deadly struggle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. In the midst of the chaos, Alex commanded a group of fighter pilots to break away from the main fleet and engage the derricks in a more direct assault. They had to take down the enemy's shields if they wanted to break through to their capital ships. The smaller ships moved with speed and agility, dodging blasts from the larger derricks' vessels as they closed in. Alex's fighter ship, the Endurance, rocketed through the chaos. His heart raced as he zoomed in on one of the derrick ships. His hands gripped the controls tightly, his mind focused entirely on the mission. A derrick's fighter closed in from his left, its weapons blazing. Alex swerved to avoid the fire, then pulled his ship into a sharp dive, opening fire at the enemy. The derrick ship exploded in a flash of light. The feeling of victory was short-lived, however, as a larger derrick's cruiser loomed in front of him. It was one of their flagship vessels, heavily armored and bristling with weapons. Alex could see the enemy fighters around it, trying to defend the cruiser, but he knew this would be the toughest fight yet. "Target that cruiser," Alex ordered, voice calm despite the adrenaline rushing through his veins. "We need to take it down, or we won't make it through this." As his team began their assault, the battle around them intensified. Explosions rocked space, and the sound of weaponry filled the airwaves. Earth's fleet was taking heavy damage, but they pushed forward, determined to avenge the loss of their people. Alex felt the weight of the fight settle over him. There was no turning back now. This battle was just the beginning. The battle had been fierce, but Earth's fleet was not backing down. The derricks had been caught off guard, and though they fought hard, Earth's forces were relentless. With the first wave of the battle won, Alex knew the real challenge had just begun. The victory in space was important, but it was only one step. Now, they needed to find the leaders of the derricks, the ones who had ordered the attack on Earth. The derricks were not a single unit. They were a massive empire, spread across many planets, with different factions vying for power. The leaders who had decided to attack Earth were the ones that Alex needed to find. The commanders and generals of Earth's fleet had already begun the search, using every piece of technology at their disposal. Satellites, deep space probes, and intelligence gathered from captured derrick ships were all being analyzed to track down the alien masterminds. In the fleet's command room, Alex stood with Sarah, his mind focused on the task ahead. The holographic map of the galaxy flickered as they zoomed in on possible locations of the derrick's high command. Every second counted now. The derrick's leaders needed to be captured or destroyed. If they were allowed to continue their plans, more innocent lives would be lost. "Where do we start?" Sarah asked, her voice calm, but her eyes betraying a sense of urgency. "The derricks are scattered across many planets. We need a plan, not just a shot in the dark." Alex stared at the map for a long moment. He knew Sarah was right. They couldn't afford to waste time. They needed to think strategically. He pointed to a small, isolated planet on the map. one that had been on the edge of Derek's controlled space for years. It wasn't a likely target for an attack, but it was known to be a hidden stronghold for many high-ranking Derek's officers. "This is our best chance," Alex said, his finger hovering over the planet. "We hit them fast, before they have time to regroup." Sarah nodded. "I'll gather the strike teams. But Alex, we have to be careful. We're going after the heart of their command. They'll have defenses we can't even imagine." Alex's face tightened. "I know, but we can't afford to hesitate. We need to take the fight to them before they can launch another attack on Earth." The plan was simple. A small strike force would be sent to the planet, with the goal of capturing the Derek's leaders and shutting down their operations. But as Sarah had warned, this mission wouldn't be easy. The Derek's had had time to build up their defenses, and Alex knew that getting to the top of their hierarchy wouldn't be a walk in the park. As the fleet set its course for the planet, the atmosphere was tense. There were no guarantees. Every officer, every soldier, and every pilot knew this mission could be their last. But they had a duty, to stop the Derek's from bringing further harm to Earth. Alex gathered his team, his mind focused on the mission ahead. "We've come this far," he said, addressing them. "We've lost too much to let them go unpunished. We will succeed. For Earth. For Max." With those words, the fleet moved forward, prepared for the toughest battle yet. The journey to the Derek stronghold was swift and silent. Earth's fleet moved through space like a storm, their mission clear. Alex's mind raced as they approached the hidden planet, where they hoped to find the Derek's leaders who had ordered the attack on Earth. But deep down, he knew the truth. This was more than just a revenge mission. There was something bigger at play, something he hadn't fully understood. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the reality of the situation began to settle in. Alex could feel the tension building, both in the air and within the fleet. Every officer and soldier knew what was at stake, but no one fully understood what they were walking into. The strike team was prepared, but as the fleet landed on the surface, they discovered something strange. The planet, once thought to be a quiet, isolated world, was heavily guarded. The Derek's had prepared their defenses well. Earth's soldiers fought bravely, pushing through the planet's outer defenses, but the deeper they went, the more secrets began to surface. Alex led his team through a vast, underground bunker system, hoping to find the Derek's leaders. The place was cold, silent, and deserted. The walls echoed with the sounds of their footsteps, but no one else seemed to be around. The deeper they ventured, the more Alex began to sense that the Derek's had abandoned the planet, or had they? It didn't feel right. Then they found it. In a dark, hidden chamber, they discovered a shocking truth. The attack on Earth hadn't been a random act of aggression. It had been part of a larger plan, one that involved more than just a few leaders. The Derek's, it turned out, had feared humanity's growing power in the galaxy. They saw Earth's fleet as a future threat, and they hoped to weaken humanity by provoking a war. The attack on Earth was a calculated move, meant to draw Earth into a conflict that would drain its resources and force the humans to fight. Alex's stomach sank as he read through the hidden files. The Derek's hadn't just attacked to get revenge for past wrongs. They had done it to stop humanity from growing. They had known that Earth's people would fight back with everything they had, and they had hoped that by causing this chaos, they could push the humans into a corner, making them more vulnerable in the long run. "This was never just about us," Alex said, his voice filled with disbelief. "They wanted us to fight. They wanted us to waste everything we've built." Nora's face twisted in anger as she read the documents. "They've been playing us all along." The truth hit them hard. This wasn't just a war for justice. It was a war for survival. The Derek's had feared Earth's potential, and now they were trying to crush it before humanity could rise any higher. The galaxy was not just facing a war. It was facing the dawn of a new power. Alex clenched his fists, determined more than ever. "We won't let them win," he said. We'll make sure this doesn't end here. The mission was no longer about revenge alone. It was about protecting Earth's future and showing the galaxy that humanity would not be pushed around. With newfound purpose, Alex and his team returned to the fleet, ready for the next phase of their battle. They would face the Derricks on their own terms now, and they would win. After uncovering the Derricks' true intentions, Alex knew that there was no turning back. The war had taken a new shape. This was no longer just about avenging Max's death. It was about the future of humanity, a battle for survival, and for their place in the galaxy. With the truth now in their hands, Earth's fleet prepared for its final assault on the Derricks' homeworld. The fleet was massive, the largest force humanity had ever assembled. Ships of all sizes and classes lined up in formation, their weapons primed and ready for battle. There was no room for doubt now. The Derricks had provoked a war they couldn't win, and Earth was going to make sure of it. In the command center, Alex stood with the other fleet commanders, his face hard and determined. "This is it," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "We've come this far. We've already lost so much. This is the moment we finish what we started." The commanders nodded, each of them aware of the risks and sacrifices ahead. They had seen the devastation the Derricks could cause, but they also understood the power that Earth now wielded. No longer was humanity a helpless colony of peaceful beings. They had become a force that would not be ignored. Sarah Lawson, standing next to Alex, spoke up. "We know the Derricks are waiting for us. They won't make this easy. But we've seen their weaknesses. We've learned from our previous battles." Alex's eyes narrowed as he looked at the map of the Derricks' homeworld. "Their defenses are strong, but they won't be expecting us to strike from all sides. We'll hit them hard and fast." The plan was simple but risky. Earth's fleet would attack the Derricks' homeworld from multiple directions, overwhelming their defenses. Small strike teams would infiltrate key locations to disable their weapons and communication systems, allowing the larger ships to move in and take control. It was a high-stakes mission, but it was the only way to ensure victory. As the fleet moved closer to the Derricks' homeworld, Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. This was the final push. There would be no turning back after this. The fleet had one chance to end the war, one shot to defeat the Derricks and secure Earth's future. The space around them was silent, the calm before the storm. The ships moved in close formation, their engines humming with power. Alex's fighter ship, the Endurance, was at the front of the formation, ready to lead the charge. "Everyone, prepare for battle," Alex said over the comms. His voice was steady, but there was a fire in it that couldn't be ignored. "This is for Earth. This is for our families. For everyone we've lost." The first shots rang out as Earth's fleet collided with the Derricks' forces. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the battle began. The Derricks fought fiercely, but they had underestimated humanity's resolve. Earth's fleet was organized, its firepower unmatched. Alex's squadron led the charge, weaving through the chaos of the battle. The Derricks' ships were massive, but they weren't as fast or as agile as Earth's fighters. Alex and his team worked together, taking down enemy ships one after another. The Endurance cut through the sky, its weapons firing with precision. The Derricks put up a strong fight, but as the battle raged on, it became clear Earth was winning. The Derricks' fleet began to falter, their ships retreating as the power of humanity's resolve overwhelmed them. As Alex looked out into the vastness of space, he knew the war was far from over, but they had taken the first major step toward victory. Humanity had proven that they would never back down. They would fight, and they would win. The battle had raged for hours, and the once silent space was now alive with the sounds of war. Explosions, laser fire, and the crackle of damaged ships filled the airwaves as Earth's fleet clashed with the full might of the Derricks Empire. This was not just a fight for Earth anymore. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy. Alex's fighter ship, the Endurance, darted between massive Derricks warships, dodging incoming fire and firing back with precision. The enemy's fleet was vast, but it lacked the unity and precision of Earth's forces. The humans had learned from every battle, and their coordination was unmatched. Alex's team was relentless, taking down enemy fighters and targeting weak points on the larger ships. "Focus fire on their command ship," Alex shouted over the comms. The Endurance swooped in on the Derek's flagship, its enormous shape looming in the distance. It was heavily armored and packed with weapons, but Alex knew that if they could take down the flagship, the rest of the Derek's fleet would crumble. The strike teams had already made their move, infiltrating Derek's controlled locations to disable key systems. It wasn't long before Earth's fleet gained the upper hand. The Derek's forces started to retreat, their once confident lines breaking apart as their command ship took heavy damage. But the Derek's were not willing to surrender easily. A new wave of ships appeared from behind the planet's moons, more powerful than before, with advanced weapons that Earth had never seen. These new ships were faster, their shields nearly impenetrable. It was a desperate move, but it showed just how far the Derek's were willing to go to stop humanity's advance. "Everyone, stay sharp." Sarah Lawson's voice crackled through Alex's comms. "We can't let them regroup. Push forward, or we'll lose our chance." Alex's mind raced as he saw the new Derek ships closing in. They were heavily armed, but they weren't invincible. Earth's fleet might be smaller, but its determination was unstoppable. With every passing minute, the Derek's began to realize they were losing control. The humans were too strong, too coordinated. They had underestimated them from the start. Alex's heart pounded as he locked onto one of the new Derek ships. His targeting system beeped, signaling a direct hit. He fired, and the ship exploded in a burst of light. But as soon as he took down one, another appeared in its place. The Derek's were relentless, but Alex knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The battle stretched on, each side trading blows in the vast emptiness of space. The sounds of destruction echoed across the fleet as Earth's forces continued to push forward. Slowly but surely, the tide was turning. The Derek's flagship was losing power, and Earth's strike teams were making progress in disabling the enemy's communication systems. The end was near. Alex could feel it. His team had taken down the Derek's most powerful ships, and their fleet was scattering. The Derek's were breaking, their once solid lines crumbling as their command ship finally fell. "This is it," Alex said quietly to himself, watching the chaos unfold. "This is for Earth, for everything we fought for." With a final, powerful push, Earth's fleet emerged victorious. The Derek's forces were defeated, and the galaxy now knew the true strength of humanity. The battle was over, but the war had shown that Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. Humanity had proven that it could rise from any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The battle was over, and the silence that followed was deafening. The vastness of space, once alive with explosions and the hum of weaponry, had returned to its cold, empty state. Earth's fleet stood victorious, but the cost had been high. Ships were damaged, and many brave men and women had given their lives to ensure that humanity would remain free. Alex sat in the command center, his eyes staring at the holographic map of space, now clear of enemy ships. The Derek's forces had been shattered. Their once powerful empire was on the brink of collapse. But for Alex, the victory didn't feel as sweet as he had imagined. The memory of his son, Max, still haunted him. No amount of victory could bring back the child he had lost. Beside him, Sarah Lawson entered the room, her face tired but resolute. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with both relief and sorrow. "The Derek's are done. We've won." Alex nodded slowly. "We won, but at what cost? So many lives, so much destruction. I just wish Max could have seen this." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder, offering him a moment of comfort. "He's with us, Alex, every step of the way. This victory is for him too." The entire fleet had felt the weight of the battle. Every commander, every soldier had lost someone. Whether it was family, friends, or comrades in arms, The loss had touched everyone, but there was also a sense of pride. They had proven to the galaxy that humanity would never be pushed aside. They had shown that Earth's people could rise above their enemies, no matter the odds. The fleet began its journey back to Earth, leaving behind the remains of the Derek's fleet in the vast expanse of space. As the ships traveled through the stars, the officers and soldiers of Earth's fleet reflected on what they had accomplished. There were no celebrations, no fireworks, only the quiet knowledge that they had done what needed to be done. Back on Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. People across the planet cheered, their spirits lifted by the strength and resilience of their fleet. It was a bittersweet victory, but a victory nonetheless. The Dereks had been defeated, and humanity had shown its true power. Alex looked out the window of the command ship, watching the stars pass by. Earth was far ahead, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of peace. The galaxy had been changed forever, but Earth had proven that it would not fall. It would rise, stronger than ever, and protect what mattered most. As the fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, the people of the planet stood ready to welcome their heroes home. The war was over, and the future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth had a place in the galaxy now, and no one would forget what humanity had done. "We made it," Alex whispered to himself. "We made it."